Don in London, hello. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol, my behaviour, equally addictive around people, places and things. So, heavy drinker for many years, then became dependent, then became addicted to alcohol, an alcoholic in action and not in recovery, and then gradually over the decades diminished beyond belief. And these days, sober one day at a time, an alcoholic in recovery, learning how to live life, no longer self-obsessed, trying to run life on self-will alone, realising I need help. And equally, when I was in the malady, addicted to thinking I needed to be with the right people, in the right place, with the right things, people, places and things, collecting all the time, wanting and wanting. And now today it's simply about needs met, wants forgotten. Most of the time, but I'm a human too, so when I see an advert on TV I can think I want that, and then want, but realise as long as my needs are met I can forget about wanting. So what's made this possible? Well, it's very simple. I couldn't do it on my own, I needed help, and I got help from family, community, medical people who kept me alive long enough to find the fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. And that was a great relief once I understood what it was about. It suddenly occurred to me it wasn't about me, it was about fellowship and keeping sober and being a part of something bigger than me, where I got wisdom. So the fellowship of AA started me on the track, or trudging the road of destiny, sometimes called happy destiny. But I've realised it can be happy or sad depending on our life experience. So what is AA? In a moment I'll explain from this little card which has got the AA preamble on it. Can't see it too well because of the light. But I don't speak for AA, never can, never will. It's full of unique, authentic people who speak for themselves where they will. And that's all well and good, because it means I have my own opinion on certain things, which is as it will be always, but I also need to keep informed about how to keep well and how to live a sober life and be a part of something bigger than me. So out of isolation into inclusion, I would say, in many respects. So the AA preamble, for a fellowship I don't speak for, most importantly because it's full of unique, authentic people who speak where they will about their sobriety. So it's the many voices which count in understanding how to be sober, not my voice. I'm just one voice speaking out what's working for me today and how it all came together. So AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. That's all I needed, a desire to stop. And that took long enough. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. So whilst AA is not allied to anything, we who go to fellowship are allied to everything. But we don't put our judgments and our views on other people or try and make people the same as us in fellowship. Sobriety is about freedom to live with choices based on reality. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And one of the things I've learned, apart from noises off, that's often the wine bottles being thrown out from the Bybendham restaurant just next to me in Chelsea in London. Wine bottles, yes. I used to have binfuls by the end of a week. So the fellowship has 12 steps and 12 traditions, which are on this little card as well. 12 steps for open, honest, willing to live life sober, and 12 traditions all about unity, service and recovery, holding the fellowship together so that we find sanctuary and anonymity to find our truth. So the 12 steps, 12 months, I'm covering the 12 steps and over the 12 months as I do the daily reflections and try and show how it's working for me. as I say, it's the many voices within fellowship, it's all the voices within fellowship which make it possible to be sober, from the person who is just drunk and in a meeting for the first time like I was, and stormed off halfway through to go get a drink because I couldn't stand it, to the person who's been there for decades and only speaks occasionally maybe, or speaks a lot about what it's like to be sober if asked, or if not asked as well. So 12 steps, 12 months. Step 4 for April is all about this one, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. In other words, a self-appraisal of how did we ever get there, into the problem of alcoholism, and how do we keep sober. So it's analysing a personal understanding of what got us into the mess in the first place, around our defects of character or extremes of behaviour and attitudes caused by drinking, and then how we got into the solution, how to develop our self-esteem, or just simply esteem, confidence, faith and courage to live one day at a time without drink, so that life can work. So the fearless moral inventory is underpinning and underlying everything I share in April. And in this book, 12 and 12, 12 steps and 12 traditions, the first page is really important as part of the story. So I'll just read it out and then cover some of the daily reflections and as Bill sees it for today. Step 4 made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Creation gave us instincts for a purpose. Without them, we wouldn't be complete human beings. If men and women didn't exert themselves to be secure in their persons, made no effort to harvest food or construct shelter, there would be no survival. If they didn't reproduce, the earth wouldn't be populated. If there were no social instinct, if men cared nothing for society of one another, there would be no society. So these desires for the sex relations, for material and emotional security, and for companionship are perfectly necessary and right, and surely God-given. Yet these instincts, so necessary for our existence, often far exceed their proper functions. Powerfully, blindly, many times subtly, they drive us, dominate us, and insist upon ruling our lives. Our desires for sex, material and emotional security, and for an important place in society, often tyrannize us. When thus out of joint, man's natural desires cause him great trouble, practically all the trouble there is. No human being, however good, is exempt from these troubles. Nearly every serious emotional problem can be seen as a case of misdirected instinct. I'm going to stop there, but I will be covering the full reading of the step in another video. I'll stick it into a 12-step, playlist. Yes. But so everything has a place, right-sized, right amount of instinct to keep the human race going, to have society, and have emotional and physical security, or emotional and material security around our needs of being met and our wants being forgotten, as I put it. So natural instinct in its right form, right place, right people or person is good. But if it's at extremes where we're looking to, live at the extremes of good fortune and also misfortune as well, because we can get stuck being at a very strong high and feeling life is good because we've got everything in excess, or we can actually go the other way and be pious and think we need to have nothing but a bench to sleep on. I've done both because I was feared up about life, and even in sobriety it was difficult to get out of the malady of what's going to happen when I stop drinking and I'm held to account for my past behaviour, and I'm held to account for the behaviour I have today. So I lived in fear and had paranoia about being sober for quite a while. That's not easy to deal with. So I'm a very human, looking for all the angles which could either improve my life or just try and find a way to survive without people picking on me again, as it felt in the end, where everybody was on my case about drinking And then, so why haven't you got yourself a job like you used to have? Why aren't you the big shot that you were? And the answer was, quite simply, I couldn't be that person again, because it was underpinned by a malady or an allergy to drink, which drove me to extremes. So when I talk about step 4 during this month, it's about moving away from the extremes of behaviour. It's like a seesaw. I can have extremes of good and be up in the air, or I can have extremes of bad and be down in the dumps. And somewhere in the middle is the levelling place, where life is in its natural level. I hope that makes sense, but I hope over the month it makes more sense, because I need to make more sense of it on a daily basis. Unfortunately, AA is a one-day program, 24-hour day, 24-hour program. All the steps, 12 steps and 12 traditions need to work today, not tomorrow or not yesterday. It only needs to work for today. And if we're not living them, practicing them, and observing how to improve our situation, then we can slide back into the malady of self-interest, self, and self. So it's about interdependence in an interdependent world in which we live. And the more we see of the world, the more we realise it is interdependent. Because on any given day there can be a success or a disaster which plunges some part of the world into chaos or frenzy about things being right or wrong. So it's hard enough living life sober for everybody. So April the 1st in Daily Reflections, this one, as I say, 12 steps and 12 traditions covered, one a month. It says here, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves to get back to normal basic instincts rather than extremes of behaviour around our instincts. Step 4 is the vigorous and painstaking effort to discover what the liabilities in each of us has been and are. I want to find exactly how, when and where my natural desires have warped me. In other words, my natural desires have gone to excess. I wish to look squarely at the unhappiness that this has caused others and myself, by discovering what my emotional deformities are, and that's where things are working at the extremes for long periods of time which are unsustainable. I can move toward their correction, which is getting back to normal-sized feelings fitting the day in which I live. Without a willing and persistent effort to do this, there can be little sobriety or contentment for me. So if I was looking to go back to extremes of accumulation of wealth or material things, or extremes of relationships around being with the right girl in the right place at the right time, or the right everything at the right time, then I'll be going back to the old behaviour which got me into drink in the first place, or kept me drinking. There can be little sobriety or contentment for me. To resolve ambivalent feelings, I need to feel a strong and helpful sense of myself, which is self-esteem, or simply esteem about being who I am. Such an awareness doesn't happen overnight, and no one's self-awareness is permanent. Everyone has the capacity for growth and for self-awareness through an honest encounter with reality. And this is what it is, a daily honest encounter with reality. So if we can encounter reality with a clear head, we have a better start at what is possible and not possible. When I don't avoid issues but meet them directly, always trying to resolve them, they become fewer and fewer. So rather than build things up into great big mountains like I used to, in terms of trying to ignore the obvious, I need to do something in my drink problem. I need to do something about what's driving me mad today. Why am I stuck feeling like this? Always having to strive to be perfect and never so. And the answer is, stop striving to be perfect. Good enough today is where we're at. And it's difficult. Life is difficult. So as we do a self-appraisal, then we get to understand a little bit more about what drove us mad drinking, which was always trying to relive a good situation and then persist and make it forever. totally unsustainable. As we have discovered with the economies of the world, nothing can be sustained for long periods without there being a counterbalance the other way. So if we'd stuck with natural sizes of what is right for us, we might have had a better chance of overcoming some of the excesses where we have a boom and bust. Any alcoholic knows what it's like to be in the boom times and also being bust and on that park bench, either metaphorically or in reality. It's a very hard park bench. So in As Bill Sees It, page 39, I'm just picking it out today, it says dealing with resentments. And my number one resentment was against myself for being an alcoholic and not being good enough, and then for being good enough but not sure if I was good enough in case somebody found me out. Resentment is the number one offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. From it stem all forms of spiritual disease, for we have not been only mentally and physically ill, we have also been spiritually ill. Spiritual in the sense of the illness not being able to cope with reality. Spiritual is coping with reality, the absolute real fundamental of now. When our spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. So if we see, feel, live in reality as it is, without trying to make it something else, this is what it is, reality, that's spiritual, then we start to straighten out physically and mentally. In dealing with our resentments, we set them on paper. We listed people, institutions or principles with whom we were angry, and this is about the inventory. We asked ourselves why we were angry. In most cases it was found that our self-esteem, our pocketbooks or bank account, our ambitions, our personal relationships, including sex, were hurt or threatened. The most heated bit of letter writing can be a wonderful safety valve, providing the waste basket is somewhere nearby. So the most heated bit of letter writing can be a wonderful safety valve, providing the waste basket is somewhere nearby. And this is a daily thing, so step 4 becomes a step 10 situation. And resentment, when we do the furthest moral inventory, and I'll talk about this more in the step 4 video from the big book, rather the 12 and 12, it really outlines that resentment is the number one offender. Resentment at our situation, about how we've handled it, about what other people are doing to us as a result of our poor handling of our situation. And it's not about, you see, what gets in the way is ego. How we feel people are judging us when we're judging ourselves more harshly because we're just not asking for help. We think we ought to be able to sort it out on our own. And this is part of the problem in the malady. We still believe we have to resolve it and sort it and be the big shot who can resolve everything, not only for ourselves but maybe other people as well, and be the right person to do it. And the answer is, if we are all interdependent, no one person has the answer. But even then, if no one person has the answer, how on earth do we keep on listening to others? Well, it's about natural instincts, desires, feelings and emotions working naturally, not to overwhelm others, but to be in, I suppose, a place where we can listen to each other for the best way forward. It's called democracy, I think. Thinking's bad news for me. It means I think I know the answer. So I always like to be interdependent, ask for help if I don't know the answer, or even check it out if I think I do, because my outlook could be quite fundamentally different to others, and they may not like my outlook. Indeed, that's true. How else would life be? We all have our own outlooks, but it's how we get together and work it out. And that's what fellowship does on a daily basis for me. So step 4 in April, fearless moral inventory. It's not to beat ourselves up unduly. It's to accept how life went during those years or times when we were bent out of shape, emotionally and spiritually, and then how to learn to live in a better equilibrium around everything that's going on a daily basis. So step 4 is a real starting point into action, really, into action, and it's not to be feared. Fearless moral inventory is not to be feared. It's just opening up the lid on the can of worms and sorting it all out and saying, yes, this is how I got to where I am today, and now I know I've got plenty to work on to live a normal life with joy, with sadness, with happiness, all those things, and know that every emotion has a valid reason. All the ones I thought were bad emotions, which I was not allowed to share, but I still had them, and now I know why I have them. It's telling me I need to know what's disturbing me right now. What a relief. So the Serenity Prayer, which is the most helpful meditation I've ever found in my whole life, to can do, can't do, and wisdom to know the difference. And it's to God or good conscience, or a power which you consider you can exhort or evoke. And some people call their higher power God, and I quite like the word God. It's a very straightforward word defining something I can't define, a higher power. But it's about truth, love and wisdom for me. The truth of now, not my opinion, love, how to love, be loved back, and wisdom, which I get by living and using my 5 senses, mainly listening and appreciating other people's points of view and how my life fits with reality. So to God, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference for me is just for today. In the end, out of my control, powerless over where they end up. They're all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol, my behaviour, well, equally as addictive to work, relationships, people, places, things, collecting, materialism, and excuse me, as we move along in the discovery of how to live sober, we have 12 steps to help us. That is, those who are in the fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. And I don't speak for AA, never can, never will. Hooray! Hooray! You need more voices than one to get an understanding of what is the fellowship of AA. You need to hear the voices of everyone you can meet who might be part of it. And the only way to do that is to really go to meetings and find out how people do get sober, one day at a time. So, why is April important to me? Well, it's the 4th month and the 4th step in the 12-step action program to change our attitude and behaviour to live well as can be, given our life circumstances and our life experiences. So April, step 4, all about making an inventory of how we were, our assets and liabilities, and the actual 4th step reads, it's very simple, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. And when we do these inventories of ourselves, it's like an appraisal that we might get at work, where we're asked to look at our good points and our, what we call areas of development. So assets and liabilities, defects and, I suppose, what's the other word? What's the opposite of defects? Effectiveness, maybe. Yeah, we do like to measure ourselves, but the whole point of step 4, the moral inventory, is to understand where our emotional base is, so we get our spiritual connection to living in the moment. So if we've never done an appraisal of what made us the way we were, how did we feel about it, and what can we do? Step 4 can seem a bit daunting, but it's not. It's an honest appraisal of what's happened, our history and how we reacted to it, or what was the reaction. And for me over the years, when I didn't understand life, I wanted to fix myself. And the easiest way to fix my feelings was to take a drink. So, alcoholic in recovery, one day at a time. And step 4, I sort of relished the idea, but I needed to understand step 1, 2 and 3 first. So once I understood I was powerless over alcohol, and if I drank again life would get unmanageable, that I could be restored to sanity on a daily basis by the collective good of living, or God or good conscience, depending on one's belief, and that I could let go and let good things happen again if I were able to improve my attitude and behaviour, to have a bit more courage, faith and confidence to face the day, rather than fear, put a brave face on and utilise my ego, which for me ego is a very thin veneer covering a great big emptiness inside, which is really not knowing what is good for me. So when I came to the fellowship of AA, I wasn't quite sure what it was all about and how it might help me just get sober again, because 24/7 drinking, wanting to be dead or wanting never to wake up, not quite sure where I was in all of that, but not wanting to wake up on a daily basis, and then suddenly finding there were a bunch of people who actually relished waking up in the morning no matter what was going to happen, be it good or bad, simply because they had a bit more courage and faith and confidence on a daily basis. So this step 4 process. But before I go there, I want to share the AA preamble, which is on this little card, freely available in meetings normally if they have any money for literature, but some meetings are poor and some meetings have got a bit of money for literature. AA is self-supporting, as you'll hear just now. So AA, what is it? This is the statement of intent, or AA preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Simple as that, a desire to stop drinking, and then how to, and then share with experience, strength and hope. And we all need a broad outlook in that respect. So this might be a little stopgap for somebody who can't get to a meeting, or somebody thinking about maybe sober life might have something in it. Anyway, step 4, April, which is covered in the Daily Reflections, which is here, this book, one reflection a day, all about step 4, or the tradition 4, and I'll cover that in a minute if I've got time. But in this book, the 12 steps and 12 traditions, this is the small version. I've got 2 other versions, an even smaller version for taking around with me when I've got a bit of free time to remind myself of living the steps of AA, or living the steps of life. And it says for step 4, it's really important for me to just share this. It says here, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Creation gave us instincts for a purpose. Without them we wouldn't be complete human beings. If men and women didn't exert themselves to be secure in their persons, made no effort to harvest food or construct shelter, there would be no survival. If they didn't reproduce, the earth wouldn't be populated. If there were no social instinct, if men cared nothing for the society of one another, then there would be no society. So these desires for sex relations, for material and emotional security, and for companionship are perfectly necessary and right, and surely God-given, or as nature and providence has developed our understanding. Yet these instincts, so necessary for our existence, often far exceed their proper functions. Powerfully, blindly, many times subtly, they drive us, dominate us, and insist upon ruling our lives. Our desires for sex, for material and emotional security, and for an important place in society often tyrannize us. When thus out of joint, man's natural desires cause him great trouble, practically all the trouble there is. No human being, however good, is exempt from these troubles. Nearly every serious emotional problem can be seen as a cause of misdirected instinct. When that happens, our great natural assets, the instincts, have turned into physical and mental liabilities. So in other words, it's okay to have all these drives that we get from nature, and surely they are God-given, but if they're out of balance, and if we're an addict in recovery, we know where it took us, filling the empty gap inside which we weren't sure about, full of fear, needing some confidence, and fixing ourselves with substance or behaviour. So when it talks about, for April 1st in this book, Daily Reflections, looking within, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves, step 4 is the vigorous and painstaking effort to discover what liabilities in each of us has been and are. I want to exactly know how, when and where my natural desires will have warped me. In other words, they're out of proportion. I wish to look squarely at the unhappiness this has caused others and myself, by discovering what my emotional deformities are, or defects as they are often called. I can move toward their correction. Without a willing and persistent effort to do this, there can be little sobriety or contentment for me. So it's essential. To resolve ambivalent feelings, I need to feel a strong and helpful sense of myself. Such awareness doesn't happen overnight, and no one's self-awareness is permanent. Everyone has the capacity for growth and for self-awareness, through an honest encounter with reality. When I don't avoid issues but meet them directly, always trying to resolve them, they become fewer and fewer. So we go through the inventory in order to find serenity, and it does take time, but along the way that serenity prayer helps me on a daily basis, to the good or God of your understanding. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, like hooting horns, courage to change the things I can, like me, and the wisdom to know the difference is just for today. And it's April 1st, and I don't propose to do an April Fool's Day joke, so business as usual for me. Yes, recovery from addiction to substance or behaviour. My substance, alcohol; my behaviour, anything connected with any ism you can possibly imagine. So workaholic, relationshipaholic, gymaholic, healthaholic, smokeaholic, whatever it happened to be. I probably transferred whatever my addiction was to another place if I felt one was going out of control. And the answer really was, all of them were out of control, and I'm powerless over them. And I guess these days, in recovery, one day at a time, life is better. I move from the problem to the solution much easier than I would otherwise do. What helps me is a fellowship, Alcoholics Anonymous, and I don't speak for Alcoholics Anonymous, nobody does. It's not an organisation as such, it's a fellowship of people who are even-sized and trying to make one day work this day, and the desire to not drink today. That's all it is. And it has 12 action steps, and I'm covering one a month at the moment, so April will be all about step 4, which reads, and this is a toughie for people if you've never been in the business of doing a self-appraisal, but I guess most people are these days if they've gone to work and done some stuff. Step 4 is made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves, and fearless moral inventory means we have to look at our assets and liabilities, and it's not easy if you've been pushed into a place of not knowing what to do next, being in a problem, so stuck down in the ism of an addiction that you can't see a way out. And I guess for me, AA helped me find a way out. I share the preamble of AA here because it sums up what the fellowship is about and what it does for me. And I emphasise again, I speak for myself, my own experience, strength and hope of getting along in the day. So AA and its preamble goes like this. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And in that last sentence, which reads, our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety, it's really the breadth and the depth of what this program is there to do. It puts us in a place where we can restart our lives on a daily basis and not drink. And if we can do that, play into the solution, which is not drinking on a daily basis, we have a better idea of how to improve our emotional, physical and spiritual well-being for this one day. So we don't become giants of wisdom, although we probably learn a bit more wisdom each day. We become able to deal with normal life, or extraordinary life as it turns out, because every day, like us, is unique and authentic. So we are lucky. We are very lucky if we can get into sober living. And it takes a while actually to let go of the addiction and start to live in this new solution, the emotional, spiritual and physical well-being that we can be, the best we can be today. It's not about setting a target of something to leap over. It's about living experience of working steps, 12 steps of action about attitude and behaviour. And on my videos I use the Daily Reflections book, which gives me a handle on each day, 1 page a day. And the Daily Reflections book is 12 months, and each month 1 step. So, as I say, step 1 was powerless over alcohol and life unmanageable. Step 2, all about being restored to sanity. And step 3, finding a God of our understanding. And when I say that, it is an understanding of a higher power, which we can exhort or ask, if you like, in good conscience, or to God, the God of your understanding, not mine. Everybody has their personal take, from being an atheist to agnostic to believer, and often we change our minds as much as we change and move into another day. So, you know, what is rock fast or rock steady in this program is that every day will be different, and if we approach it with a sober head, we have a better understanding and a better idea of how to be in the solution of living rather than the problem of living. And for today, April 1st, I know it's April Fool's Day and I don't do it. I think it would be harsh to do that to people, make up some spoof. It wouldn't work for me. But April is all about step 4, the fearless moral inventory, and the reading says this: looking within, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 4 is the vigorous and painstaking effort to discover what the liabilities in each of us has been and are. I want to find exactly how, when and where my natural desires have walked me, that is, to be out of proportion to the rest of our living. I wish to look squarely at the unhappiness this has caused others and myself. By discovering what my emotional deformities are, I can move toward their correction or to the solution. Without a willing and persistent effort to do this, there can be little sobriety or contentment for me. To resolve ambivalent feelings, I need to feel a strong and helpful sense of myself. Such an awareness doesn't happen overnight, and no one's self-awareness is permanent. Everybody has the capacity for growth and for self-awareness through an honest encounter with reality. So this only works if we live in the moment. When I don't avoid issues but meet them directly, always trying to resolve them, they become fewer and fewer. And when we try and resolve things on a daily basis, it's not about us imposing our self-will or our self-righteousness or our judgments on others. It's about actually saying, well, what is the solution to our situation today? How can I make the best of it? And what are the things that used to get in the way of that? And most often it was isolation, single-minded thinking, and never taking account of either the person we were with, the family we are in, the community we are part of, or the society we are part of. So often we have been disturbed and warped so much that we cannot make any real connection. So the 12 steps really are there in terms of attitude and behavioural change to make it possible to reconnect with society. Not only that, to be a part of, to be included, and no bigger and no smaller, to take account of what is going on around us. And that is the essence of the program. And how does it work? It only works for a day, and we learn a little bit more as we go along. And in this book, as Bill sees it, suddenly enough, it's coincidental that it talks about the 10th step, which is like a small step forward. Step 10 is about doing a daily inventory of what's worked and what hasn't. And it says here on page 65, growth by the 10th step. In the years ahead, AA, this is about AA itself, in the years ahead, AA will of course make mistakes. Experience has taught us that we need to have no fear of doing this, providing that we always remain willing to admit our faults and to correct them promptly. Our growth as individuals has depended upon this healthy process of trial and error. So will our growth as a fellowship. Let us always remember that any society of men and women that cannot freely correct its own faults must surely fall into decay, if not into collapse. Such is the universal penalty for the failure to go on growing. Just as each AA must continue to take its moral inventory and act upon it, so must our whole society if we are to survive and if we are to serve usefully and well. And that really is saying that as a society or fellowship, AA need change its attitude and behaviour as society, community and family change their attitudes and behaviour. It's all about staying in the solution rather than wallowing in what might be a problem. And we humans do not change that easily. Society, family, community, we are always playing catch up with where the world is going, because either we're in the forefront or we're trying to play catch up. And some of us have a lot of catching up to do in our own personal conduct and behaviour, and with any luck the 12-step program helps us do this. So what helps me? The books, the fellowship, and one prayer to whatever God is of your understanding. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to learn and know the difference.
DonInLondon, good morning. All about AA. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supported through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And good morning, it's April the 1st, but no April Fool's Day jokes here. Well, not at the moment anyway. And in that preamble, it says the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking, and that's tradition 3 of our fellowship. And as we move into, very apt, because we did that tradition last night at the AA meeting in the Boltons, and people talk about what it is to have a desire to stop drinking. And believe you me, I'm sure if you are an alcoholic or an alcoholic in recovery, one of our fervent wishes, once we understand we cannot beat this on our own, is a desire to stop drinking and find company who can help us. So the fellowship works for me, and I've been exploring other websites where they have ideas about how to help people with alcoholic problems. That's families and also the person concerned. And truthfully, there's not much out there beyond rehab or other things, and then we find there's a whole number of different ways to stop drinking as we start to work our way through different websites. Anyway, what works for me is AA, and I'm not about to give it up on a whim, because it does keep me safe, and it's just important to me. It's a part of my life. It helps me with emotional, spiritual and physical well-being and making the best of what I have. So none of us are perfect. And April, in the fellowship and in the daily readings, if you like, this book, daily reflections, all the days or all daily reflections are about what it is to work on step 4. And step 4 from my little black book, which is normally blue, but I had 2 reads back yet. Step 4 says, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. And it goes on to say in the first paragraph, creation gave us instincts for a purpose. Without them we wouldn't be complete human beings. If men and women didn't exert themselves to be secure in their persons, made no effort to harvest food or construct shelter, there would be no survival. If they didn't reproduce, the earth wouldn't be populated. If there were no social instinct, if men cared for nothing for the society or one another, there would be no society. So these desires for sex relations, for material and emotional security, and for companionship are perfectly necessary and right and surely God-given. And what it goes on to say is, if those particular God-given rights, or nature and nurture, provide us with a certain outlook, if they're balanced, then all is well. But what we find with us alcoholics, that somehow we have been corrupted, or I suppose led down one particular path to excess often, and alcoholism is all about excess of one thing, an addiction, then we need to get back on track. So in the 12 steps of AA, step 4, the fearless moral inventory, is really looking at the 7 deadly sins and the 7 virtues, assets and liabilities. And for many it seems like a big thing to do. I suppose if you haven't ever done it, or never really understood what you were doing, then it could be a bit of a difficulty to face up to the reality of the carnage, maybe, or simply the wrong path trodden, I guess. And as M. Scott's Peck, he wrote a book which said The Road Less Travelled, and it says in the first sentence, life is difficult, and that's mentioned in his obituary. And what it also mentioned is that he was a gin-sodden, chain-smoking philanderer, and he also said that he was a prophet and not a saint. So I guess if we are human, we need to make sure that we address the problem in a human way, which is to have forgiveness for where we went and what we did, and also to forgive those who probably helped and supported us along those paths, probably unusually other people with out of balance personalities and characteristics. So we follow where we may to get what works for us, and sometimes it just works completely against what nature intended, which was some sort of balance between all of these things. Or is it? I mean, if you go back in history to philosophy, Locke said mankind needed to be put into a social order because he was wayward. And then you have other people who said that mankind will naturally float towards the good of life and good conscience. And those particular philosophies are there forevermore as questions. And then, of course, we have religion on top as well. Anyway, coming to the readings for today, and that's from the Daily Reflections. This is the 1st of April. Looking within. Made a serious, searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, page 42. Step 4 is the vigorous and painstaking effort to discover what the liabilities in each of us has been and are. I want to find exactly how, when and where my natural desires have warped me. I wish to look squarely at the unhappiness this has caused others and myself. By discovering what my emotional deformities are, I can move toward their correction. Without a willing and persistent effort to do this, there can be little sobriety or contentment for me. To resolve ambivalent feelings, I need to feel a strong and helpful sense of myself. Such an awareness doesn't happen overnight, and no one's self-awareness is permanent. Everyone has a capacity for growth and for self-awareness through an honest encounter with reality, when I don't avoid issues, but meet them directly, always trying to resolve them. They become fewer and fewer. So really, it's about how to be honest. And we humans will deny most things if it doesn't suit us. So we have to be a bit careful with ourselves and know and understand. It's very hard to do a moral inventory without other people having some sort of input, like a sponsor or a counsellor or somebody you trust who can say, well, that is true about you, but that maybe isn't true. Seems that somebody's been doing something disorderly. They have the sirens to prove it. Anyway, let's hope it's just a small emergency, not a big one. Going on to As Bill Sees It. These are not necessarily about step 4, they're just in a linear order in the book. Page 119. On the broad highway. I now realise that my former prejudice against clergymen was blind and wrong. They have kept alive through the centuries of faith which might have been extinguished entirely. They pointed out the road to me, but I didn't but I did not even look up. I was so full of prejudice and self-concern. When I did open my eyes, it was because I had to, and the man who showed me the truth was a fellow sufferer and layman. Through him I saw at last I stepped from the abyss to solid ground, knowing at once that my feet were on the broad highway if I chose to walk it. Sorry, some of the anachronisms of the last 80 years which sometimes make me stumble. All about honesty. One of the hardest things that we will ever face in life, how to be honest with ourselves and to other human beings, and do it more so on a daily basis when we want to portray ourselves as being okay. It's very, very hard. Anyway, for April 1st, from the 24-hour day book, not authorised by AA, but written by an AA person, says, since I have been in AA, have I made a start towards becoming more honest? Do I no longer have to lie to my loved ones? Do I try to have meals on time? And do I try to earn what I make at work? Am I trying to be honest? Have I faced myself as I really am? And have I admitted to myself that I'm no good by myself, but have to rely on God to help me do the right thing? Am I beginning to find out what it means to be alive and to face the world honestly and without fear? And as I say, for me, in my world, God is truth, God is love, God works through people. And it's a very practical way of looking at things, because if I'm on my own, I can make up my own rules, my own outlook, and whilst in my own opinion it might be a good conscience, I need to actually ask myself and other people, am I on track? Because it's so easy to fall off the middle ground and find yourself either at extremes of trying to be truthful and hurtful, or at the other extreme of in denial, filtering out the truth and not actually doing anything to progress. After all, we are here to make the best of what we have, to learn and understand and be a part of living. More later.